Good afternoon and welcome to Wilmac's continuing webinar series. Today we are pleased to highlight and discuss how changes in both the call recording and financial services industry have created new challenges for financial services organizations when it comes to procuring, installing, and supporting call recording systems, and how to best address those challenges in the market of today. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees have been placed into muted mode. With that, attendees are encouraged to submit questions electronically throughout the webinar. We would be happy to address those questions during our Q&A period, which will occur at the conclusion of our main presentation. My name is Salvatore Damaro, and I will be moderating today's session. At this time, I would like to introduce you to today's presenters. Steve McDonald is a Solution Manager here at Wilmac. Steve runs Wilmac's Financial Services Division out of our New York City office. He has considerable experience dealing with top financial firms around the world. He is focused strictly on call recording and consulting these institutions on adhering to their call recording needs and demands. Mark Huber is Wilmac's Manager of Pre-Sales Support. Mark has over 16 years of experience in the financial services call recording industry. He also has a strong background in solution engineering, regulatory compliance, security and resilience, as well as extensive experience with call recording technologies spanning multiple manufacturers. Adam Hassan, also a Solution Manager here at Wilmac, has over 10 years of experience in enterprise infrastructure, application delivery, and support services. He also has 5+ years of experience in the financial services call recording industry. Adam is a certified deployment and support engineer for multiple call recording platforms across our industry. We would like to thank all of our presenters for joining us here today. This presentation, entitled Supporting Today's Compliance Recorders, is one part of a 3-part series in which we will highlight current products, best-of-breed applications, and enhanced service offerings for the financial services recording industry. Today's agenda will be to discuss the new reality when it comes to recording in the financial services industry. We will then discuss proactive maintenance and also relay best practices when it comes to choosing your support partner. With that, I am happy to now turn the presentation over to today's first presenter, Steve McDonald.
Thank you, Sal. The theme behind this webinar is based on what we have seen in the call recording industry in the past 3 to 5 years. More importantly, we have noticed that in the financial industry, they may be a bit behind in how they think of call recording compared to other industries utilizing call recording as well. What we have seen is call recording go from a hardware-based, simple, and easy to support solution to a very complex, software-based, and extremely difficult to support solution. What we used to see was technicians being able to fix the hardware with their hands on site. What we see now is engineers remoting into the software-based call recorder and having to have special and advanced knowledge to be able to support it properly. We've seen the manufacturers get away from servicing the customer and focus strictly on technology they are building. This has put a lot more responsibility on the reseller to be able to support the customer. In short, the type of professional that resellers need to have on staff to support your call recording have went from technicians to subject matter expert engineers. It's very rare that you will see resellers staffing these type of employees. We've learned a lot and hope to share with you what we believe is the best way to procure, design, implement, and support your call recording solution. With that, I will pass it along to Mark Huber.
Thanks, Steve. There have been a lot of changes to call recording technology over the last few years, and these changes have posed some challenges for the technical support teams within financial services organizations. Let's take a look at what's changed. For many years, hardware-based loggers did the job of recording your calls. These were proprietary turnkey systems that were hardwired directly to your old digital telephones and dealer turrets. They stored calls on magnetic tapes, which were bulky and unreliable. Nowadays, call recorders are software-based systems. They're installed on commercial servers. They capture calls from the network, and they store them on your network-attached storage. Those old logger manufacturers have all but disappeared as their products became obsolete, and this new breed of software companies has emerged to take their place. One of the more significant limitations of those old hardware loggers was that they didn't give you very much in the way of search capabilities. You could find a call based on the date, the time, and the recording channel where it was located, and that was about it. There was no additional metadata available to narrow your search. There was very little in the way of security either. Pretty much anybody sitting at the front panel had full access to control the system. So the need for security and enhanced metadata drove the new call recording companies to develop their systems differently. And this led to the introduction of database technology for storing call records and user security profiles. Over time, databases have become central to the architecture of modern call recording systems. These databases have a unique and sometimes proprietary structure, even when they're built on common platforms such as SQL. So they require specialized knowledge to administer and service them. Another significant driver of change has been the changes to your telephony environment. Do you remember those big, bulky digital PBXs that used to fill up your data center? Well, that's been replaced by a voice over IP unified communication system. While these new systems have greatly enhanced your telephony capabilities and they've given you remarkable flexibility, they've also caused increased complexity for call recording. Capturing voice over IP traffic is not nearly as simple as it was to connect a pair of wires to your digital phones. This complexity has caused challenges for your technical support team. Once upon a time, your internal personnel could administer and maintain your call recording systems relatively easily, but the increased complexity has made this less achievable. Consequently, there are fewer smart hands or knowledgeable personnel in your organization who can manage these systems. In more recent years, changes in the information technology industry have impacted software-based call recording systems. And the vast majority of call recorders nowadays run on the Windows operating system. So the transition from 32-bit systems to 64-bit systems is one such example. This transition has caused compatibility issues with some applications, and that's required systems to be updated. In some cases, older products which are past their end of software development have become obsolete, and that's forced financial services organizations to replace them with newer systems. Speaking of operating systems, we all know that Windows is in a continual cycle of updates, new releases, and sunset of support. And there's heightened threats to network security, especially in the financial sector. This has made frequent, critical security patches mandatory. Any one of these updates has the potential to adversely affect the operation of critical systems, including your call recording. So this has forced financial services organizations to commit significant resources to building IT policies and procedures to manage a constant cycle of testing patches and then deploying them onto production systems. In addition, it's essential to remove unsupported operating systems from production to avoid the risk of them being compromised due to security flaws. As a recent example, it's likely that your organization is currently working diligently to remove systems running on Windows Server 2003 before Microsoft's support ends this July. Now, how have all these changes impacted service and support on call recording systems? Well, it used to be that the lion's share of service work was done on site. Nowadays, most service is being performed remotely. As I mentioned earlier, your organization no longer has those smart hands on staff, and this makes your technical support personnel a lot more reliant on a support partner to remote in and resolve problems. Therefore, the expertise of your support partner is more important than ever. No longer do you need a hardware technician to come in and replace failed parts. Rather, you need an engineer who has expertise on software, operating systems, and databases. And installation of these systems has become a lot more complex also. One of the key factors in supporting a software-based call recording system is performing prescribed maintenance routinely, and that ensures that the system functions at an optimal level. This is just like you do with other software applications in your organization. This includes things like system patches, software updates, database tuning, etc. Adam Hassan is going to explore this in more detail in a few moments. This is a bit of a paradigm shift for some financial services organizations. We must alter our thinking away from having an appliance mentality when it comes to call recording. Perhaps some of us are making comparisons to our dealer turrets, our networking devices, which in some ways are still appliances. Part of this mental shift is understanding the practical life cycle of a call recorder. In the days of hardware loggers, we purchased them with the intention of keeping them running as long as possible. Well, today, most organizations are planning for a 5-year life cycle, budgeting for replacement in year 3, and then procuring and deploying the replacement in year 4. This expectation is in line with other elements of your data network, such as servers, switches, routers. Yep, your call recorder is now part of your data network. It's not part of your telephony infrastructure or your trading system any longer. So to summarize our discussion of call recording's new reality, I'll turn it back over to Steve McDonald. Steve?
One of the most difficult hurdles we face in compliance recording is getting people to see that call recording isn't a commodity. For so long, call recording was a simple add-on to your PBX or turret. As you all know, purchasing your phone system is a large and time-consuming project. It made sense just to add your call recording hardware during this purchase. These phone vendors at the time did a much better job supporting your call recording. It was much more simple. You could physically see these systems and physically see the call logger. Most large trading floors had technicians on site to look after everything. If something went wrong with the logger, they could simply call up the manufacturer and have them walk through it step by step. It was very comparable to supporting your phone or turret system. That's really when call recording began to get lumped together with these phone and turret vendors. It also started to be an added revenue stream for these companies, and that didn't hurt matters. Most phone and turret vendors are well aware they don't have the knowledge or resources to properly support a complex call recording solution. In today's environment, it's difficult for them to give up the revenue, so they continue to attempt to support this and put their customers in very difficult positions. Call recording today needs to be looked at as a mission-critical application maintained by subject matter experts in this specific and niche field. The solutions are so complex that you can't ask a phone technician to have the knowledge and know-how to support your software-based call recording solution. I briefly mentioned call recording as a mission-critical application for your company. Some may argue 8 to 10 years ago, call recording was there for verification purposes, really internal compliance. Nowadays, there are numerous federal agencies who regulate what is being done in your industry. One of the easiest ways for them to track what's happening is to listen to your phone calls. This is why call recording has turned into such a mission-critical application today. If the SEC comes looking for certain conversations between Trader Joe and Bank ABC, you have to be able to pull these records. An excuse of not being able to find the calls in a proper time will lead to fines, arrests, and more importantly, bad publicity. This is why call recording has moved into such a mission-critical status. Are the vendors that support your call recording aware of this? What we've seen is most financial service companies are still looking to turret or PBX vendors to be their experts in call recording. These vendors are typically not educated or experienced in being familiar with the regulations the industry sees. They rely heavily on the manufacturer to assist them, and as I mentioned earlier, manufacturers are vehemently moving away from assisting the customers. They are focused on the call recording technology. It is extremely important that you have experienced company or companies to assist you and your compliance team with proper call recording. I'll now hand it off to Adam Hassan.
Thanks, Steve. I'll be speaking about the move from traditional support models to proactive maintenance. The traditional break-fix model of support is not suitable when it comes to complex call recording applications. Root cause analysis may be useful after the fact, but outages can be costly in compliance environments. The best way to avoid these problems is through a well-defined proactive maintenance program. What does proactive maintenance mean? Simply put, it means avoiding problems through prevention. By implementing the right system maintenance and regular system routines, functionality and uptime can be optimized. There are a number of priorities that have to be met when it comes to call recording systems. Ensuring functionality and a state of good repair is the highest priority, yet it is a constant and challenging need. Maintaining uptime sounds simple, but it requires expert care and resources. These complex recording solutions require simple routines and processes for internal IT departments to follow. This allows them to validate system functionality at the server and OS level, at the application and database layer, as well as with analysis engines, telephony integrations, not to mention high availability and resilience configurations. In light of these facts, proactive maintenance is a must. The break-fix model is dated and ill-fitting. It is reactive, and while it might be satisfactory for root cause analysis, it does nothing to mitigate the loss of mission-critical call recording data. Another aspect of proactive maintenance is the idea of intelligent change management. Change management needs to be holistic and all-encompassing. Subject matter experts that understand the recording systems and their place as part of the greater whole can advise on effective change processes that yield optimal results with minimal impact. There are a number of very real and very difficult challenges facing IT departments tasked with maintaining these systems. They need to stay on top of uptime, functionality, compliance, as well as achieving business objectives. Adding to this burden is the complexity of the expectations held by call recording manufacturers. For example, there is a 200-page maintenance guide containing expected behavior from customer IT departments to keep systems running properly. Who has time to read that? As a result, these manufacturer-defined routines are not followed and systems degrade. Another challenge is that often change management overlooks call recording and changes to the environment cause outages. In fact, the vast majority of outages we observe can be attributed to changes in the environment rather than software bugs. Another fact of this new reality is that IT departments are stretched thinner than ever. We see that other high-priority tasks take precedence for IT groups, and these groups are staffed by subject matter experts in defined areas. Voice and data networking, databases, as well as other general application support. As a result, voice recording becomes an afterthought, despite how many of these supporting technologies it touches. Given everything on IT's plate already, critical information is not always analyzed and actioned in time to recognize and prevent outages. So what is the solution? We've identified that an automated proactive maintenance solution that verifies the state of all critical functionality and provides reporting and alarming in case of error is the best way to achieve these uptime and compliance requirements. In the event that the automated solution is not applicable to the environment, the next best thing is a team of highly trained, certified product engineers available to oversee the execution of manual system validation tasks. Going hand in hand with having the right team in place, we also need a tightly crafted framework for issue discovery and reporting so that potential problems do not slip through the cracks. This framework is comprised of daily, weekly, and monthly system routines that ensure that everything is working as required. Upon issue discovery, there needs to be an easy-to-understand impact assessment, or a report, so that non-technical decision makers can leverage the information quickly with little delay. And in the interest of preventing future problems, detailed technical notes need to be documented in a ticketing system to ensure historical information is used for future troubleshooting efficiency as well for larger scale trend reporting. Up next is Steve McDonnell, and he'll be talking about what's involved in choosing the right support partner.
When you're looking for a partner to support your call recording, I strongly believe there is one question you have to ask. Is their core competency call recording? Yes, you want to make sure they have customers similar to yourself. Yes, you want to make sure they are knowledgeable about the financial industry. Yes, you want to make sure they deal with mission critical 100% call recording. But the most important factor when you look at a company who's going to be dealing with your call recording is to make sure that they are subject matter experts in call recording. PBX and turret vendors are not subject matter experts in call recording. They are subject matter experts in their own fields. You will find there are not a lot of companies out there who are specifically experts in call recording. But with the regulations being what they are and the type of complex software being implemented, it's absolutely crucial that you have experts in call recording. I will pass it along to Mark Hubert.
Thanks, Steve. Take a look at this from a recent Gartner report. Gartner found that vendors comprising 80% of the call recording market cite support as being below expectations, and perhaps more notably, support responsiveness as being far below expectations. This is consistent with anecdotal evidence that I've been hearing from financial services organizations for years. Call recording vendors tend to overpromise and underdeliver when it comes to supporting their customers. This is unfortunate and perhaps even a bit surprising in an industry where call recording is such a mission-critical application. But there are good vendors out there. How do you separate the good ones from the bad ones? First, let's consider that in order to provide effective support, a vendor needs to deliver in three critical areas: the know-how of their engineers, having the right support resources, and responsiveness. In your mission-critical environment, delivering even 2 out of 3 is bad. The vendor must deliver the whole package. The one lacking most frequently is responsiveness, or to put it another way, respecting the promised service level agreement. What happens when respect for SLAs is lacking? Well, the first consequence is that the customer is forced to shift their attention to the established escalation procedures. Who can I call to complain and when can I call them? Consequently, they require a clear and detailed escalation procedure during the sales process, and it becomes a focus of their discussion. Sometimes the escalation procedures provided in the SLA can be pretty complex, and the focus on these procedures are often used to justify poor SLA adherence. Well, the end result is that the customer ends up managing escalations instead of the vendor managing the SLA. This is a travesty in an industry where responsiveness is so critical. As an answer to concerns about SLA adherence, there's been a trend in the call recording industry to support systems remotely, the argument being that the vendor can respond faster this way. While there are many advantages to remote support, and while it can improve responsiveness, it can also cause a disconnect. Sometimes, the SLAs are written to depend on remote access. Should a problem not be resolvable remotely, then your SLA might be invalidated. And while remote support can improve the initial response, it can also tend to increase the overall time to repair because of a lack of focused effort on the part of the service engineer. He might even be working on multiple cases simultaneously rather than giving your problem his undivided attention. Lastly, network security has to be taken into consideration. A lot of organizations nowadays see remote access by vendors as a potential vector for malware and cyber attacks, so your security policies might forbid this. If this is the case in your organization, an SLA which depends on remote access is going to severely impede the resolution of your problem. From all of this, we can conclude that remote support must be properly balanced with on-site responsiveness. So be sure to ask your vendor how they plan to get an engineer to your site when necessary. In addition to responsiveness, how do you ensure that your vendor has the right resources and know-how? To answer that, first, we're going to take a look at what makes software break in the first place, because effectively supporting software is vastly different from supporting hardware. After all, there's no parts to wear out or fail. Actually, software really doesn't break. Those ones and zeros always do exactly what they were programmed to do. What really happens is subtle changes in the environment, and this necessitates a need for experience and keen troubleshooting skills that are specific to this niche technology, combined with an understanding of a financial services environment. So here's some examples of common causes of software failure in an approximate order of how commonly they occur. We don't often like to admit it, but sometimes we humans make mistakes when administering our systems. Maybe a number was entered incorrectly, or we didn't check the box that needed to be checked. Getting all of those settings lined up properly can sometimes be tricky, but misconfigured devices are probably the most common reason that systems don't function the way we expect, and it can actually be one of the more difficult problems to track down. Today's call recorders aren't running inside of a bubble. They're in constant communication with other systems. A software update or a configuration change on one of those connected systems might have an unintended effect on the function of your call recorder. Changes to group policies and outside applications such as antivirus scanners or network security scanners can cause disruptions when not configured properly. Your network bandwidth is always in a constant state of flux. Because call recorders must capture voice in real time, they depend on adequate bandwidth. When data arrives too late or not at all, the moment of capture has been lost. Problems such as this can be notoriously difficult to track down since they seem to happen randomly. Network ports are sometimes inadvertently closed, or installation of unapproved third-party software could impede the proper function of a call recording system. And despite our best efforts to size them properly, storage partitions and databases sometimes run out of space. When there's no room to put new data, it can cause all kinds of unexpected behavior. Software bugs. They're probably the most common accusation when it comes to system failures. But in reality, a bug is ultimately to blame in less than 10% of cases. Ironically, however, for many software engineers, this is their first go-to when troubleshooting a problem. And this is undoubtedly being driven by the software manufacturer because their preference is to support only the latest version of their product. Consequently, a lot of time and attention is being given to patches and updates, even though they rarely solve problems. This ultimately leads to a lot of frustration because software updates are not written overnight, so the time that it takes to get them, test them, and then apply them can be lengthy. Malware and cyber attacks tend to get a lot of attention also, mainly because of their high-profile nature, but in reality, they only rarely cause call recording systems to fail. These problems can't be entirely avoided, but there's no doubt they could be mitigated. Our experience has shown that the single most effective way to maximize system uptime and reliability is to faithfully follow the manufacturer's established preventative maintenance routines. This not only prevents many problems from occurring in the first place, but when problems do occur, they're often found more quickly. As Adam pointed out earlier, following these routines can be challenging due to their complexity. So this makes your choice of a support partner critical. Who's the best choice? At first, you might be inclined to think of the manufacturer. And who else would have all of the necessary resources at their disposal? Now, while that's very true, it's also true that manufacturers are set up to support their product, not customers. They excel at finding and fixing software bugs, but not at pinpointing those environmental causes. They're too far removed from your business to provide the level of attention that your organization requires. What about your internal personnel? Nobody's closer to your business than they are. But they often lack the know-how, and as a result, they struggle to communicate effectively with the manufacturer. Compare this to other technology in your environment. Would you trust an untrained, uncertified engineer to work on your telephone system or your trading system when it's down? With the complexity of today's technology, it's really impractical for your internal personnel to be resident experts on everything. And then there are the third-party providers who resell a manufacturer's product. When researching third parties, you'll find a pretty broad spectrum of competence. The fact is, most third parties are simply product resellers. They have a limited skill set when it comes to supporting call recording systems, and most of them rely heavily on the manufacturer for support. They also usually lack specialization. Call recording is not their core product. It might be telephone systems or trading systems which they specialize in, and call recording is just an adjunct. And sometimes their experience is in contact centers or in public safety rather than financial services. Most of those organizations are not set up to serve you best, and there's a huge gap in expertise between them and the manufacturer. To fill this gap, you need to seek out a business partner. We're making a distinction here between simple resellers and true business partners. What we're calling a business partner is an organization that provides expertise on par with the manufacturer, coupled with a nearness to your business that enables them to provide attentive and agile support. What differentiates true business partners are that they have multiple certified Tier 3 engineers on staff, and they have a close working relationship with the manufacturer, which gives them crucial access to the needed resources, such as product management or the R&D team. They will specialize in call recording as their core product. The right business partner also has experience in the financial sector to ensure that they clearly understand your needs. In order to find the right business partner, you'll need to do some homework, and you'll need to be on the lookout for third parties that bill themselves as full service providers, but in reality have limited capabilities. The best advice here is to check references from some of their current customers and especially from other financial services organizations that are similar to yours. Ask those references about their experience with support, and if the provider respects the SLAs and has demonstrated that they have the necessary know-how and resources, or do they often require assistance from the manufacturer? I'll now turn it over to Adam Hassan, who will discuss some best practices that effective support engineers follow.
Thanks, Mark. Patching and updates should be an area of concern when it comes to choosing your support partner. Manufacturers typically require systems to be kept up to date, and in most cases they will refuse to offer support until a system is updated. When it comes to patches for these recording applications, it has to be said that there is an over-reliance on patches as a solution to every problem. I'm sure many attendees can attest to the fact that they found themselves in a constant cycle of waiting for the next patch, the one patch that will solve all of their problems. Well, there are some big issues with this approach. Patches and bug fixes aren't written overnight. They take time. They're typically released in batches on a schedule, sometimes quarterly, sometimes less frequently than that. These challenges put financial services organizations in a constant cycle of waiting, testing, and applying patches. This is the support focus of the manufacturers and many third-party providers, but it's ineffective at solving problems. When you have a problem, what do you do in the meantime while waiting for the next patch? Good service and support isn't about applying the next patch and hoping that it will fix a problem. Support partners following this model aren't using good diagnostic practices. Proper support is about determining the root cause of a problem and addressing that problem directly. Sometimes that means a patch, but sometimes it doesn't. Is your support organization focusing on the right thing? These challenges leave some with the impression that today's software systems are buggy and unreliable, when in fact it's the lack of routine maintenance coupled with poor support that's the real problem. I'll hand it back to Steve McDonald, and he'll be talking about the solution when it comes to choosing the right support partner.
I'll wrap this up with some advice on what a great support structure for your call recording solution looks like. You probably have many applications and solutions at your company that have SLAs attached to them. The same goes for call recording, and they should be similar to what your other SLAs are. It's true the majority of the time, issues can be dealt with remotely, but seeing that this is such a mission-critical environment, you really need to make sure someone can get on site when needed to meet your SLAs. Make sure whomever is supporting you has local engineers that can get to you quickly. Again, with this being software-based, there are going to be issues, and issues that your support team is going to need to go to the manufacturer for. Make sure they have great relationships with the manufacturers and know how to navigate the oh-so-difficult minefield that many manufacturers have. This takes years of working together to really develop the type of skills to get this done. If they don't have the know-how to navigate the manufacturer, your downtime can expect to increase by a lot. This is a mission-critical application, so the longer it's down, the more risk and exposure you have. Make sure the team has detailed technical notes and a history and a ticketing system. This ensures efficiency and larger scale trend reporting. The team should also have their own knowledge base of diagnostic procedures and solutions. This improves turnaround time, which again is the utmost importance in your type of environment. I will end this with a purchasing and logistics method that we see a lot in the field. A lot of customers have tried to make one vendor responsible for many applications in their environment. An example would be somebody trying to take on every application on somebody's trading floor, and they would try to attempt this throughout the world. In theory, the value for the customer would be the single point of contact, and it would hopefully free up the customer's employees to focus on other tasks. The trend was becoming very popular a few years ago. The single biggest hole we can poke in this method is a single vendor where rarely, if ever, employ engineers that specialize in every application they are attempting to support. What they end up being is the middleman to the manufacturers of that specific application. If you have 10 different applications, your single point of contact is now the middleman to 10 different, difficult to navigate manufacturers. As you've heard throughout the presentation, this can turn into a disastrous way of supporting any application, especially call recording. Call recording, like most complex software applications, needs to be supported by experts in our industry.
Thank you very much, Steve, and thank you to all our presenters today. We hope that you've enjoyed the webinar. As mentioned earlier, today's presentation, Supporting Today's Compliance Recorders, is one part of a three-part series. Our next event will be in September of 2015, where we discuss right product, right features. Following that, January 2016, we will discuss enhanced services. On behalf of all of us here at Wilmac, we look forward to seeing you next time.